All right, today is April 23rd, 2024. This is the AI Agents Engineering Sync, and I kind of have the first few items, so we'll just jump right into the agenda. Um, I'll do a quick demo of what I've been working on. All right, can we see my screen? All right, so this is taking the PG vector implementation of creating document embeddings and using it on a sample document. So I got the remote playbook. I just downloaded that PDF and then I like attached it to an AI agent version and did a thing. So here's how this works. Uh, so just getting a few variables in the console. You can see this, right? Is this big enough?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Essentially what we've got is it needs a user for some reason. And then I'm asking the question, how many people work at GitLab? And it's asking in the context of that document. The all the code is on the agent version, so I just have that there. And then this code will search the embeddings for that question. And so you can see down here, this is what it comes back with. I think I have it selecting like 3 entries, but the first one shows, the answer to that question. So then I have let's see, this guy here, version dot, there we go. Okay, this is the prompt, and it's just a silly prompt, but it says you're a comedian, respond to every input with a joke about the input. So I can pass this all to the AI gateway through my local AI gateway. It takes a second. And then it'll say, why did the GitLab employee cross the road? It's a good joke, but it does answer the question. So yeah, so it works. None of this code is like production ready, but we actually can do it with what we have, which is a bit of a change from what we were thinking last week that we were kind of blocked. So any questions before I move on?
That is pretty good to have this working. And it's good that it didn't take a lot of work, I guess.
I borrowed a
I
lot
guess
of code.
figuring out this takes a lot of work, right? Like once it's laid out, those 5 lines, it's fine, but figuring out those 5 lines is the problem.
Well, the nice thing was like this is all done already for the document search. So I found that code and just like, copied a bunch of that over. So
Awesome.
yeah, there's a lot in there in that implementation that is like it does the creates the embeddings in a background job, and it has retries and a whole bunch of like, production quality stuff that we would need to do. But this at least proves that we can do it with the tools we have today. So um, I'll stop sharing. So yeah, I linked to this merge request where I just put the code just to have it up there so we can look at it. I'm not sure that I think so. Then on to point 2, I've been talking with Shinya, and he pointed me to a POC using Elasticsearch, which is I think the way that we want to move forward with this. And so I think what I'll do is try to take what we've got here, kind of rebuild it using that Elasticsearch method and see if we can accomplish the same thing. And then if so, point 3, I'll start to work on like an updated roadmap to kind of like, at least deliver the first MPC on this, which would be like the document upload, creating the embeddings, and then, like however we hook that all into the prompt and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where things are at today.
That's quite good. So my only point is if we have this working with pgvector, why just not push for pgvector now and move to a Elasticsearch later? Is there any, because if we have this now and Elasticsearch is the way we want to move, but I think they're still figuring out the nits and bits of how that will work. We can just use
Yeah,
pgvector for now and then move as an next iteration to Elasticsearch.
I think we could do that too, and maybe we should just do it that way. Shinya had mentioned that he thought the PG vector stuff was going to get removed next milestone, because they're moving the document search to I think it's an API that is provided by Vertex AI.
Mm,
And so because that is like not a shared resource, it's just like it's kind of like a singleton in terms of like the like that
mm-hmm,
reference. We don't need to have like any sort of like variance to that. So I think they can just put that all in one place and just like access that via an API. So that like the PG vector could be gone in a month. So I thought we could try like do a spike on the Elasticsearch thing and see if it's ready to go or not. Shinya seemed to think that it was, that we could
mm-hmm,
actually use it on .com today. Uh, and so if that's the case, then we could just kind of go down that path. And if like I was looking through that POC and it doesn't seem that much different than kind of what we have here. So I think I'd
mm-hmm.
know in a day or two if it's a viable path, and then if so, we can just jump in that direction.
Maybe just for my understanding, didn't David say something about Elasticsearch is only enabled on a few or not enabled for the majority of customers? So would that be an issue for this document search thing?
I don't
Or am
think it
I
would be an
like
issue.
mixing stuff?
Yeah, yeah, I think for his perspective it would be a concern, but for ours it's not because we can just limit this to SaaS for now.
Okay.
Since
Mhm. So
if we're
if
looking at this as an incubation project, we just like
mhm.
limit the scope. Um,
So in the end, if I was to run this on my self-managed instance, like the requirement would be I need to enable Elasticsearch, for instance.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
fine.
So I think at least one of these paths gets us to a working
Mhm.
MVC that we can, at least demo, which was the goal all along.
No, I like it because
So
they are also moving towards Elasticsearch, so I think that makes sense.
yeah, okay. All right. Well, yeah, like I said, I'll work on that this week and probably have a bit more information and a clear direction by the time we meet next week. Cool.
Cool. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Joe.
Hey, yeah, I wanted to come by and say hi. I chatted with Marshall before he tried out GitLab Steps as potential framework for AI agents and explained to me what AI agents were. Yeah, yeah, so I wanted to just, since he's leaving, I wanted to check in and see if how much of that was sort of his plan and how much of it was your shared plan. And if there's anything that we can do to support that, because I feel like it made a lot of sense the way he was describing it to me. And steps is something that is moving pretty quickly. And there's a lot of opportunities across the country. Sorry, just say country.
Yes.
Company. Across the whole country, the whole world to use like steps as an abstraction for like putting together pieces, like it's at its core it's just a really fancy templating mechanism for exec statements, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it has structured inputs and outputs that make it really nice for reusing things. We just launched it in an experimental state, put it out there with some actual real docs. As a matter of fact, I should link those. So I feel like it's a real thing. It's a real boy, no
Yeah.
longer a wooden puppet. Yeah, here's the docs for it. One of the things that we've also launched along with this is actions support. So we've got like a step that specializes in running GitHub actions. And the nice thing is they wire through the same interface, so you can interleave them, so this interface is really nice if you want to just sort of give a general framework for using tools. And a lot of the stuff that Marshall said that you would need was what we wanted to build anyway. Like we're wiring this
Mm-hmm.
into Runner through a gRPC interface. we're going to need a policy language, right? Because in addition to constraining, humans from using certain, what steps they could use, you probably want to constrain AI as well. And one of the things that Marshall said would be really nice would be to just sort of have a inline scripting support. So you could just sort of say, glue some of the simpler pieces together with little, something a little bit more powerful than just short expressions. So yeah. So anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is the tools part of agents. So agents are think about a duo chat, but an abstraction of that. So you can build your own duo chat kind of, or your own AI feature. You pass a prompt, and that prompt is executed, and you manage that within GitLab. That where CI steps come in is on the tools part. A prompt is only that powerful, and ideally you want to be able to allow your agent, for example, to create a comment on an issue or fetch data from somewhere else, from the web. And this can really be anything. So it's, instead of we trying to build tools for everything, it's better that we provide a way for customers to create their tools, similar to how they do CI catalog or whatnot, or in this case, CI steps. So CI steps would be the language or the how they would define these tools. And then they would allow agents to pick some of them or that would be used for that specific agent. So for example, one agent can have access to the tool to fetch the weather. The other can have access to the tool to create a repository. That kind of stuff. And that's where CI steps come in, or that at least that was the idea. We didn't go through at the time because it was being developed still. But since it's an experimental level, I think it's a nice thing to start exploring soon. We need to get first, I think, the doc ready, right? Because that's the MVC, and that's where we want to go. It's like to have something useful, and then we can iterate by adding tools. But as I'm saying this, I'm writing from AI framework. AI framework team was on this sync last week. They're building Duo extensions, which is also provide Duo with extra capabilities by adding more and more agents, more and more tools to it, right? So I think this could be a good alternative as well for exploration of CI steps. So define across everything tools. So I will tag you on, I will create a comment on this Slack for AI framework, and I will add you as well.
Okay.
So that you to sync you with Pini. Pini is the product manager. David is the engineering manager, and they are the best people to talk about this. For us, we definitely want to use CI steps eventually for this. It's just that we don't have, like, we're not working on tools yet. But it would be the next iteration, I think, right?
Yeah. I'm curious, Joe, like what is the runtime for this? Like is it like in a runner? I'm trying to like map this in my brain to how runner works, and you give it a Docker image and then you can like run some scripts. Is this more of like a hosted compute of some sort that is like locked down in a way, or is it more, can you customize what's in there? Like how, I don't know. Help me understand how.
What is this thing even?
Yeah.
So step runner is a binary that specializes in running these steps, but it's just execs, right? So like it could be anything. That's not that's not very specific because it could be anything. In the context of runner, right? Step runner is in the execution environment. So runner says, instead of generating a bunch of shell scripts, and SSHing and saying, here's a shell script and driving it from the runner manager. Runner manager is going to actually construct a sequence of steps, including checkout, get the artifacts, get the cache, run these sequence of steps. It might just be one big script. If the user only provides a script, we'll wrap that in a script running step, or they can provide reusable steps. They could have a whole structure, right? And these steps could be composites, so it could be a whole tree of execution, right, for each one. And then it gives that payload to step runner in the execution environment, and that's where step runner runs it. Something like running things in Docker containers are themselves steps, and things like running shell scripts are steps. So like everything's not shell scripts to begin with, right? It's execs. So if you want to run a shell script, you exec the shell that you want and give it the script. So you decide, you don't deal with all the escaping the specifics of shell. It kind of changes the paradigm for runner. Now, because this is its own thing, it doesn't have any dependencies or connection back to runner. It also works nicely running things locally. This is part of the desire, is to sort of be able to take the job that you want to run, which is just a concrete sequence of steps, and you should be able to do that locally too. And you can step through it.
Okay.
You can, what comes out of it is also a detailed structure of exactly what happened, all the inputs, outputs, the specific versions of each component that was used, everything necessary to reproduce the same binary byte for byte. So it also takes us a long ways towards compliance requirements for like reproducibility. Eventually, I think, well, the thing that comes out are what we call step results. And eventually, I think GitLab will understand those so that you can do things like say, what was this production binary built from? And you can trace that back to the specific step results and say that, like this is exactly how it was built, or vice versa. You could say this step, this piece of code has a defect. Where is it? Trace it all the way to production. From the perspective of like just using this as a framework, yeah, it's just a binary. And so you could stand it up as a service if you want. You could put it in an environment, like you can actually really kind of wire it in however you like. It's gRPC. So if you want, one thing I don't know is what the architecture of this would be. So if you can tell me more about that, I could be more specific. Maybe you don't know.
Yeah, so the tool execution is essentially a function as a service architecture. You have a context running somewhere, and you send functions to be executed in that context. So what would happen is GitLab would have a list, like users would come to GitLab, write their functions or want the data to fetch. The agent, when executing the LLM responses with the packet, this user wants that function, and the LLM itself would fetch the function definition and send to the function executor. So it's essentially a function as a service architecture that we're looking at. And the CI steps is how you would define those functions to be run. At least this is what I had in mind.
Yeah, and I think if you were to just take the same gRPC that StepRunner exposes and just implement a proxy that does the authentication and authorization, then you could stand up steps as a service, which is basically runner but push, right? And you could just say, here's a pool of whatever, right? You'll have each call will be executed in an isolated way on a VM. And then under the hood, it can just be the same mechanism as runner.
Yeah. This could be even on AI gateway itself. So the gRPC between the AI gateway and the step executor, or the step as a service.
Yeah.
SaaS. No, this is already SaaS. It can't be that. So that is very interesting. It just AI gateway would fetch the definition from Rails side and send it to the step as a service kind of architecture to the phone.
Yeah.
And
You
the
can
step
also,
is- Mhm.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
If you would rather run it alongside the agent process itself. I don't know I don't know what you throw away, what the trust boundaries are, but like if you want to take Step Runner and just have it next to you as a sidecar, you can just run it there
Mhm.
too. Like you can,
Mhm.
if you don't want to have a service dependency, it's just a go binary and it's putting all this abstraction around. Ultimately, what it
So-
does is it pulls. Oh, go ahead.
No, but I'm thinking if I could even run this from the Python process itself.
Sure.
If it's a binary, okay.
Yeah.
For simple things, it could be.
And I
that's
want to
interesting.
get that kind of integration too, because I want to also do like editor integration, for like
Mhm.
auto completion, go to source. Like this is a language we've defined in YAML for better or for worse. And we want to be able to treat it as such. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I think for us, we are focusing at the short term on other things, but I'm gonna going out of this. I don't know if the others agree with me on this or not. But I will ping the rest of the company of the AI framework team because they are thinking about how to handle tools. And all of us, well, at least I think it's a really good option. Like not only a really good option, but the obvious option to go with. And I think they'll feel the same, and that can be quite useful. So I'll
Cool.
ping them, I'll
Thanks.
connect over there, and that's about it.
That'll be fantastic. Yeah, I agree. It could be really nice to be able to just choose from the whole catalog and have even one policy language too, like for my users are allowed to use these steps, this agent is allowed to use these steps, there's a lot of overlap. Cool.
Yeah, this seems like a good time to make that connection, Eduardo, because of all the architecture discussions that are happening anyway. So, yeah. Awesome.
So that's what I wanted. Just wanted that connection. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks for stopping by and giving us a
Mhm.
rundown on steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want more, I can always show you more. Yeah, we
All
love
right.
to demo stuff.
We'll sign up for a demo later when we're ready.
All right.
Yeah, right now it's early, and we gotta make the prompts work first, and then the tools, and the docs. The docs needs to work first, then the tools, I think. But later, even the tools could be abstracted away as a step, like fetch information from and doing the rag from a step. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. All right, we'll iterate on it.
Yeah, we're looking at the runner architecture, and just about everything ultimately can be boiled down to a step. Like all of we have this, whole list of executors, and most of them go away. It's like, do you really need Docker executor when you could just get an instance and have a step that runs Docker? Not really.
Is there, Joe, is there a expected release of this, or is it a little too early to say?
We think that there is. I'm terrible at answering this kind of question, largely because I just don't remember these dates and stuff. And
Yeah.
but the rail side is engaged in making this like a first class citizen as a run keyword, and we're doing the runner side right now. So I think in the next couple months it'll be wired through like in a nicer way. Right now, you kind of have to like give the steps as an environment variable and run the binary, which is really wonky, but like nothing changes because steps get plumbed through without being modified. Like they're pass through payload, other than slapping on like additional, built-in steps. So it's kind of a slow increase of functionality, to be honest with you. One of the things that I wanted to make sure I get in place as sooner rather than later, or whatever you might need to run it on your own. So the gRPC. So we're working on the gRPC now to make sure that like when you go take a look at it, it's obvious how to use it. It's not vaporware.
Okay.
So it's not really an answer, is it?
I mean, no, I think it's like it gives us sort of a frame of reference. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with anything like this, is it 1 month, 6 month, 12 month, like what's
Okay.
the timeline? And it seems like it's probably more in the 4 to 6 month range.
Definitely for like a beta release for sure.
Yeah.
Just because there's like 2 of us working on it.
Yeah. Sure.
The yeah, like that it's kind of broken into like viable, complete, and instead of lovable, I think they changed the name to competitive. And so those are like a little longer range. Like
Sure.
a lot of it is also going to depend on getting the ecosystem going. Like a big part of it is like integration with the catalog and stuff. I think integration with the catalog is just going to move slow because it's just they have to build first they have to build a catalog API.
Sure.
Like there's just a lot of stuff to do there. But in the meantime, this core of it is usable, and it can run actions off of GitHub too, which is kind of useful. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm just going through all the most popular actions and just kind of adding tests for them and fixing things necessary to make them work.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. That'll be a nice feature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I just tagged you on the Slack, but I mistakenly clicked do nothing because you're not in the channel, but I'll send you the message.
Okay. My favorite error I've ever seen in Slack is when I clicked do nothing and it gave me like a 500 error. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, thanks.
Cool. All right. Anyone have anything else before we break?
Prompt management is becoming a focus of AI framework. There are a lot of discussions happening over there. They will be working a POC in the next weeks or so. And I don't think AI agents will be part of it because of timing, they need something quicker. And also, I don't know, I feel that this is more like a buy versus build if we do not know if we want to sell or anything, but this is happening over there.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
I'm talking with them just so that we don't diverge too much. I think if AI agents could power this, but for now, let them decide what's best for Duo itself.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then we can converge later if that's the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm thinking is I will spend the next 2 weeks building a prompt management. Just like sit down and build without merging, just to share with others the ideas and on an execution environment instead of just like talking about things. So I want to see if I can get in 2 weeks up to the LangChain level so that I can pull prompts and execute in a LangChain kind of like chain. And if I don't need to create a mergeable code, that makes the process a lot easier.
A lot faster.
Yeah. So I will probably give it like a sprint on this for the next 2 weeks and see how far I can go.
That sounds good.
And then we can make a better decision later.
I do think it helps a lot to sort of like see it in action, because a lot of this is talking in the abstract, and it's just hard to visualize what the actual workflow even is if you can't
I'm
see
very
it.
bullish. This is like a very good opportunity. I'm like, I want to I like understand why it shouldn't be used right now, like to power our own product because too many questions. But I'm bullish that this can be a like good opportunity to make market, to build I would say, yeah, to make money eventually, but to build a market. So I'm gonna push on the next 2 weeks and see what I can crank out. And then later everybody needs to deal with my crappy code. Over promise and under deliver. This is my goal.
Sounds like a good plan.
Perfect.
Cool.
Recipe for success.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Okay, cool. Well then,
Cool.
we'll split up. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, have a great
Thanks.
day.
See you
Bye.
next time.
See you.
Bye.